Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 3 Creed fragrances for summer, so stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Now, Creed is a house that has been hyped up a lot. A lot of people talk about this house, a lot of people love this house, and of course they're most well known for having Aventis. But they are also a house that I think a lot of people talk about and think about when they think about fresher summer fragrances, because I think ultimately that's what they specialize in, fresh fragrances, and there are certainly a few that I do enjoy. So I'm going to talk about 3 of those fragrances. I do actually have one honorable mention as well, so without further ado, let's get into it. The honorable mention is going to be Aventis Cologne. This is an honorable mention because I know a lot of people do enjoy it. I personally am not a big fan of it. I find it to be a very musky fragrance with a slight orange. My biggest critique, and one thing that would make me actually really like this fragrance, is if the orange was stronger and longer lasting. So this is a fragrance that to me doesn't perform that well, but it is fairly easy to wear. It's a musky, fresh sort of fragrance. Some people have compared it to Allure Homme Sport, which I don't really get that comparison. They both have orange. The orange to me is quite different. You have more of a bitter, tart kind of an orange in Allure Homme Sport, but this is more of a fresh, juicy, sort of very realistic orange that I will admit is really quite something. So, you know, if that's the kind of fragrance that you do enjoy, that you do like, you should check that one out, and I will leave it as an honorable mention because I know a lot of people really do enjoy that one. But without further ado, I am going to get into my actual top 3, and the number 3 fragrance is one that I have actually recently tried out. I'm going to be doing a full review on this one, so I'm not going to say a ton about it, but that's Tabarome. And this was an interesting one because it is a tobacco fragrance, and I was not really expecting that or expecting what it is from Creed, and it is an idea that I do enjoy. So I like tobacco fragrances, and a fresher tobacco fragrance is certainly something that's intrigued me. I know that there is a tobacco fragrance by Gallagher Fragrances, the Eau Fraiche or something like this. I've totally forgotten the name, but it wasn't really something that I enjoyed that much, even though I liked the idea because I did get a little bit of an ashtray vibe with that one. That's not the case with this fragrance. So it does open up. I get a ginger, I get a little bit of the bergamot, I get a little bit of that tangerine, but that quickly subsides and the tobacco starts to come out. Now what it is more of a dry, sort of green, leafy tobacco, almost a little bit herbal, and it does come across quite fresh. There is a freshness to it. Another interesting thing that I found about this fragrance, because it was released quite some time ago, and somebody on Fragrantica mentioned this, and I have to agree, there is a bit of this fragrance in the dry down that reminds me of Bleu de Chanel. So it has this sort of slight tobacco vibe in the dry down, but there is something about it that gives me a little bit of this shower gel vibe. And this did come out before Bleu de Chanel, so I think it's 2000 or something like that this was released, but it does have something in it that gives me that kind of impression with a bit of tobacco, also with a bit of a soapy vibe. So it is something that I think does actually work really well for the spring and summer. And it is definitely different. It's a very different fragrance because it is a fresh tobacco fragrance. Something I do enjoy and something that I can always appreciate when a fragrance is different. But that is the number 3 spot. The number 2 spot should probably come as no surprise to anyone, and that is Virgin Island Water. Some people describe this as summer or vacation in a bottle, and in a lot of ways, that's what it is. It's coconut, has a little bit of rum in it, there's lime as well, and it is just this really well done tropical vibe. The coconut in it, very nice and creamy. There's a little bit of sweetness. This one does not come off as sunscreeny, because I know coconut does have a tendency to do that in a fragrance. Certainly doesn't have that vibe. In the opening, there is a little bit of booziness, but to be honest, I don't get a lot of that. And I know some people also describe this as kind of smelling like a pina colada, which I can kind of get, especially because the coconut is quite strong. But again, it's not, to me, particularly boozy. That rum note is very subdued and not something that I really pick up on, and not something that, to me, is very present or long-lasting. It is a little bit there in the opening, but definitely isn't something that I feel is a lot of presence. It does have a lime note, and I do really like lime notes. And actually, I will say that if the lime note is the thing that you really, really like about this fragrance, one thing that I think is good to check out, Hawaiian Volcano Intense by Alexandria. And this is essentially an intense version of this fragrance, which has a much more potent lime. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a lime soda, very fizzy and enjoyable. A very nice fragrance as well, and different enough that it is in its own way, its own thing. But anyways, Virgin Island water, fantastic tropical fragrance, coconut, lime, and a little bit of booziness. So that is a great choice as well. The number one spot, probably one of my favorite fragrances of all time. For a long time, this was probably one of the only Creed fragrances that I actually ever really enjoyed. And I think this is probably one of the best marine or aquatic fragrances that has ever been made. And it's quite an old fragrance too, so I think it's stood the test of time. And that fragrance is Arolfa. This is one that really does remind me of like an ocean breeze. You're out on the Mediterranean, and this is really what it's supposed to do, is remind you of, or it was designed after the family was on their yacht in the Mediterranean, and it was supposed to capture that feeling. And really, to me, that's what it does quite successfully. It has this very fresh, uplifting, aquatic marine vibe, and it has a little bit of saltiness to it from that ambergris. It's very, very well put together, and actually, it is one that I enjoy a lot. My favorite marine fragrance, still to this day. Like I said, very old fragrance, but still very popular. Now, this fragrance also, I will say, I personally don't get a lot of good performance with it. I know some people get absolutely crazy performance, and if that's the case, if you get good performance, definitely I think this fragrance can be worth picking up. And it is one that I've seen definitely at Costco, along with I've seen Tabarome for a very good price as well. So I think it can be worth it if you get the performance out of it, if you like it a lot. And you should, of course, sample it ahead of time. But what I was going to say about this is that for me, the performance isn't that great, and there are some good clones available. I personally like the one from Genre Parfums, Aquatica. I think it's quite close. Of course, it's not 100%. It's quite close. To me, the performance is better. And of course, it is one that I've gotten some good compliments with, so it's one that other people do certainly enjoy. And I think it's just a great summer fragrance, perhaps one of the best niche summer fragrances available. So if you get the chance, I know it's one that is not talked about. In fact, I know both Tabarome and Arolfa are not talked about amongst Creed fans, or they aren't hyped up very much. People talk about Aventis Cologne, Green Irish Tweed. Even Virgin Island water gets talked about quite a bit. But those two are ones that are not talked about a lot, and they are both ones that I do enjoy a lot. I am going to put one other honorable mention actually now on the end, so this will be essentially a top 5. Now this wouldn't be in the top spot, but I think it's something that I do want to also mention, and that fragrance is Millisieme Imperial. And this is one that definitely does get a lot of talk. It is one that is really well loved in the community, and for good reason. It has a very nice and very interesting melon note. And I do find it very enjoyable. And another nice thing about this fragrance is it's very light, effervescent. It's very uplifting, but it's one that even when you smell it, even if it's a fairly strong smell, it's not overpowering, which I think plays very well in the summer. Especially heat can make the fragrance a little bit thicker. And this one is one that is really, really well done. Now I have heard that Milestone by Armoff is a really good clone with better performance, because even from my testing of Millisieme Imperial, I will say the performance is pretty abysmal, especially for the price that you're going to end up paying for it. 4 hours maximum. And of course, when you're paying Creed prices, that to me definitely comes as being generally unacceptable. But apparently Milestone does fix the performance issues while still smelling really, really close. I can't personally verify that, but I will say that it's worth a try if you get the opportunity to smell it. It is a nice fragrance. I think it's a little bit more mainstream, and this is why it makes it a bit of an honorable mention. I also find the performance is not so great, but it does have this really interesting, really uplifting melon note that I think is something that goes well with summer. I think we all want fresh fragrance. Well, not all of us, but I think one thing that goes well with fresh fragrances or summer is fresh and uplifting fragrances. And Millisieme Imperial is certainly one that does that really well. Anyways, guys, I am going to cut the video right there. Leave a comment down below. What is your favorite Creed fragrance for the summer? Or do you have a Creed clone that you really, really enjoy and in fact may even like more than the original? Let me know. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.